Hi all, let's go over game 11 of the World Chess Championship. So this is game 11 of 12. So we're approaching the potential, if game 11 and 12 are drawn, we go into tie breaks, which are much faster time control, where Magnus Carlsen actually dominates Sergey Karjakin historically in terms of blitz and rapid. So it's interesting. Did Sergey want to play for a win in this game? Let's see. E4. And Magnus sticks with E5. I mean, Sergey's, throughout his career, he's been an E4 player predominantly. So they're both in the most comfortable territory, which is recommended for highly important occasions to try and stick to systems. Kasparov has said to stick to systems which you've got the most experience of. So they're both doing that. So the Ruy Lopez. And we have here, after bishop e7, we have the closed Ruy Lopez, d3. So this avoids, for example, Marshall Gambit variations and stuff, you know, with rook e1, c3, d5. And actually, this is called the Martinez variation here. M-A-R-T-I-N-E-Z, the Martinez variation. And apparently, you know, it is quite popular at all levels and does okay for white without having to learn tons and tons of opening theory. So b5, bishop b3, d6. So now that e5 is protected, knight a5 might be a concern, well, is a concern, and we see this move a3, giving a2 to the bishop for a retreat square. Black castles, and now knight c3, which is the most popular move to keep a lock and key on that d5 square. We see bishop e6, a slight variance from game 2, where knight a5 was played. So both, well, knight a5, bishop g4, bishop b7 have all been seen before according to live book here. So yeah, okay, so we see bishop e6. So keeping things a bit different slightly now. This is the innovation from game 2. And we see knight d5. Yeah, again, forcibly keeping a lock and key over that d5, any potential d5 break from black. And black actually replies now knight d4, which is the second most popular move in live, but also knight a5 has been seen before. If we have a quick look at knight a5, then this has been seen before quite a bit. This position, where there's been 15 games at least from here, from this position, and now it starts to vary with things like a5, knight e7. So this has been quite topical, this position here. Okay, so, but anyway, we don't see knight a5, we see actually knight d4. And this choice here by Magnus tries to kind of change the pawn structure actually, because it allows double pawns here, but this pawn is quite an advanced pawn, and means actually it could be followed up by c5, c4 later. We see knight takes d4, and white accepts that structural change. I don't think he's got too much choice. In fact, here after knight d4, I don't think bishop a3 just seems too slow. Yeah, usually knight takes d4 is played here. It's kind of forcing in a way then, because let's have a quick look if the bishop retreated, just to have interest. Yeah, I think black has got no problems actually just taking here, then taking here, and then just going here. There's no problems. You can see that f5 later is going to be good, and the center close like this. Yeah, it's no big deal to retreat the bishop. So basically, white does go in with this change of pawn structure. So this change of pawn structure, yeah, it's now here also we see another couple of knights coming off, a couple of bishops coming off, and we've got a definite change of scenery here. So in this change of scenery, yeah, there's one less pawn around the king. So you might think white might try and put pressure on the king side. But black's advanced pawn here means actually c5, c4 is logical to undermine the exploitable base of the pawn chain here. The most convenient is this one. But there's also the option of c3 as well, because this bishop's strong on that diagonal. So that's black's structural plan. You might think white's structural plan might be like this, but as soon as f5 is played, you know, e5 might be good, and black might later exchange off dark square bishop. So it's not entirely clear cut, but white could also just play f4 with the idea of building up on the king side, because of the weakened king there. That's the other bonus of white's play in this position. So the structural plans are quite interesting here to consider. White does play f4, c5, and we do see now queen g4 hitting e6. That's protected. And now actually the immediate f5, not minding about e5. Yeah, I mean, black actually isn't in such a bad way that any move is completely terrible. Both e takes and e5 seem actually to be playable here. It's not as if it's going to radically change the position. For example, like this line, black can even play like this. It's nothing really to write home about for white on e takes f5 or even e5. It's nothing major. d5 is possible there, and even this position, which looks scary, right? To play like this, you might think queen h5 here. Let's just check this particular position. Yeah, it could even, black can even survive this. It's not a major attack here. Black's actually much better here. So white's got to be careful how not to go too crazy on the attack in the event of e5. Yeah, this kind of thing, it looks crude and effective, but it's not that effective. If white has to play d takes, queen f7 stops queen h5. And here again, we would reach a kind of equal position. So this kind of means actually that it's starting to imply that in this position, with quite a few pieces already off the board, yeah, it doesn't look as though it's too critical if black has got a choice of like 3 different moves which are all okay. Black plays rook a e8. We see bishop d2, but now c4. It looks as though black's the aggressor in terms of structure here. White's sitting back waiting for this c4. If b3, I don't think that makes that. I don't think that improves things for white. You might think b3 because we got this bishop on the diagonal. I still think c4. Let's just check this. I think c4 is possible. No, maybe f takes. Okay, with a slight advantage. Maybe there's better here for black. Maybe just plays d5. And that's fine for black. That's absolutely fine for black. Yeah, it's no big deal. Okay, even from white's point of view, I guess. But no, he doesn't want to play b3. Bishop d2. And yeah, you can see it might have some use on this diagonal if when c4's played. c4 is played. And we see h3, which might be useful to protect the queen in some upcoming variations. And now, so this choice here or here, CD, white can always contest that C file. It's not such a big deal, perhaps. But we see the move C3, more ambitious. B takes. And now not even taking here, actually. Some extra spices added to the position. Taking here is going to be about equal, this sort of position. Even if the bishop did probe on that diagonal. Yeah, it's we see d5 instead. And with this rook on as a tactical target, well, it's got to be careful about these like checks to win the rook. So bishop g5 is played. Yeah, you don't want to like take here because then yes, there is a disaster. Believe it or not, first taking on f5 and then we just take the rook and there's no compensation, right? So basically, disaster moves aside, bishop g5. We see bishop takes g5, queen takes, d takes, f takes, yeah. More things are coming off. C takes, and now here there's a choice of e3 or ed. Now on ED, this position should be equal. This rook and pawn ending, black's active enough. Those are only double pawns in the centre, and white should really perhaps try and force a perpetual check as an example scenario. It's not the most exciting scenario, but black, Magnus actually plays e3 instead of e takes, and so we've got this pass pawn which could be dangerous if white steps up. Rook e1, h6, queen h5, so keeping an eye on the rook here. e2, the queen's tied down a bit, but this makes way for the possibility of queen e3 check. This is stopped with queen f3. Believe it or not, it's not actually entirely critical d5, even if queen e3 happens, but it's not desirable. This sort of position. Okay, now because the rook's been looked at, we move the rook first to be able to play something like queen d2. But even this position is not totally like gone. But black is doing much better. It's to be avoided. No, actually, it is potentially losing. Okay, so let's go back. Yes, after e2, yeah, it's best not to allow queen e3 because essentially, yeah, the rook will be protected at some point, and then queen d2. So white cautious about that. Queen f3. There's no point in allowing that. Now a5, trying to maybe create some trouble with b4 later, or a4 followed by b4. We see c3 holding things up there. Queen, but it does mean now queen a2 with the idea of hitting a3 and coming to d2. A little bit scary. White though has queen c6. White can cause trouble around the black king. The black king has not got too much protection, so the potential for perpetual checks is quite high here. Rook e6, we see a check. This is a way of going really bad south if taking on b5, because then queen d2 is a killer. This is just horrible for white. No, you don't want to allow this. Totally passive. No, white's got to aim for the perpetual check scenario. It plays check on c8, not queen takes b5, and here blocks the queen from the rook. And this actually goes into perpetual check scenario. You might think, well, queen d2 allowing a perpetual check situation after taking happened. Now, before we have a look at that, let's have a look, say, at rook f6 as an example. Queen g4 here is actually, the thing is, now e2 is only protected by the queen, and yeah, the pawn's dropping off. Any queen d2, we just take on e2. Thanks very much, and white's actually much better there. So there's no point. Black's best move apparently is check here. There's no point entering this line. I think there's just perpetual check anyway, if white wants it. Yeah, just perpetual check. If he goes there, then it's like, for me, it's perpetual check. Up here, let's check. Yeah, you can see that it's like perpetual checks around. So there's no point entering that line with rook f6. We see instead queen d2, so it just essentially allows what seems to be a scary position for a moment, but it's because of the perpetual checks now. Losing the rook with check seems, you might think, a bit daft, but in fact there's nothing here because of the perpetual checks, not just on f5, which is covered here, but on e4. Now on g6 here, so the game ended on a draw here. On g6 we have check here, and the thing is, yeah, white is also on the pawn on e2. Let's have a quick look at this. So basically, if black doesn't agree to the perpetual checks and plays queen f8, then here queen takes e2 is going to be better for white, this position. Even if check here, yeah, if takes here, then white's actually much better after c takes. 2 pawns up, and so basically, yeah, after the check here, black's best is just to allow the checks. Even here, there's no major difference. Queen takes e2, and white's better. So perpetual check is basically forced. You can think about queen f8 here. And on this scenario, again, and then just if queen f8, we just take on e2 again, and white's better. And here we just go back to e4. So yeah, it's okay. Wasn't the most exciting game in the world, and I think favours Magnus. He's going into an area where statistically in the past, if it goes into tie breaks and game 12 is drawn, he dominates Sergey on blitz and rapid much more than classical. So I don't know. I think the favourite at the moment for me to win the match is Magnus Carlsen again, after he got that very, very important win. Yeah, to equalise the match. He's the favourite. If the next game is a draw, I can only see Magnus Carlsen. He loves blitz and rapid as well, and he's been like world champion at blitz and rapid, and both actually one year, all three 1 year. So I don't think that's a great territory, but in the art of war, it says to pick battles where you know the battleground, and you've won there before, you're comfortable there. You need to pick the right battleground. So in a way, it's like Magnus picking the right battleground. If he can just get through the classical portion, even just equal, then he's choosing a nicer battleground. Yeah, to decide the world championship on the tiebreak, in the tiebreak area. Yeah. Okay, let's see what happens in game 12 though. We've got one more classical game left. Comments, questions, likes, appreciated. Thanks very much.